Yep. All right. I love these squid guys. Okay, so we have what is kind of now known as sort of the traditional kind of layout for a 2D Zelda game. You've got all these different floors. You've got like the rooms are all different-y and interesting. Zelda, giant cannonball or giant black bubble. I don't really know what they are. In Zelda 1, all the rooms were identical. Did I go around? I have to have gone around and gotten those. Yeah, I did. I already that fast forgot that I did that. The rooms were all literally the exact same. And you know, the every once in a while there would be like different different tile patterns on the floor that like made you go only available to walk in certain areas. And sometimes there would be, you know, cracks in the ground that you couldn't walk through, or bombable walls on certain corners, but they were all square rooms like this that had doorways on some of the walls, right in the middle of the wall, and that was it. Like square rooms, enemies in them, certain areas of the floor you can't walk on, and doors, and that's it. They didn't have any stairs, they didn't have any, you know, intricacies the way that these dungeons now do. In Zelda 2, there was much more variation to the layouts and appearances of the I forgot, I can't do that. The layouts and the appearances of the dungeons. But they focused more on your ability to fight your way through the monsters that were in the dungeon, and your ability to kind of remember where you've gone before and what paths are fake paths and where, you know, there weren't puzzles in it as much as the layout itself of the dungeon would be, as you got later into the game, would be complex and have like a lot of dead ends and like wrong ways and back passages and things. But when they made this game, the layout of the dungeons became a lot more intricate, but also a lot more interesting. And I think it's a formula that has been very, you know, successful and entertaining. Kind of just across the board. What am I missing? Ow. I think this was also the game that introduced the Master Key, or the Big Key, or the Boss Key. It's had a couple of different names over the years. The key that is required to be found in the dungeon to move forward. In Zelda 2, there was a Master Key that opened all locks. Like, if you found it was an item in one of the dungeons, and it just opened every locked door in the game. Before I go to... oh, fuck. Before I go in that door, I just want to point out that this exists. I don't need to come down here. I was at full health anyway, but you can jump off those little things, hop down in little pots, and go into a secret area. It's kind of neat. Fuck. You know what? I don't know why I'm doing it this way. Just as easily light up the room and see what I'm doing. But yeah, anyway, about the Big Key, I think it creates like I think it helps to create a through line. Like it gives every dungeon something that you know you should be looking forward to, that you're going to need for the future that's more than just the item that you find. You know, and I think that it helps build your anticipation. Like the way this dungeon was set up, I saw the big chest way before I got the big key. And I was like, I know there's something cool in there, but I can't get to it. I gotta come back to this later. But I want it, you know? Oh, getting chased. I think it helps build anticipation. I think it was a really cool addition. Gotcha. These, oh, missed. These red dudes, you have to use the arrows to kill. The green ones you can kill with your sword or with a, you know, well-placed pot. Oh, I don't know why I switched back. I'm going to use the arrows here in a second anyways. Actually, I'm going to try and kill one with the ice rod first. Because I know you can do that. Alright. It's about all the magic I've got. The ice rod's really powerful against certain enemies. I don't remember, this game might have started the tradition where the item in the dungeon is the thing that helps kill the boss, you know, because obviously the arrows here, but they don't do it in every dungeon either. They do it a lot more in some of the later games, especially the 3D games. They really like to make it so that the item that you find in the dungeon is required to kill the boss. But I think that started here. The items that you got in Zelda 2 kind of weren't items at all. Really what helped you kill the boss was your spells. The items you would get in Zelda 2 were things like the Power Glove, which let you break rocks, or you know, the boots, which let you walk over water, stuff like that. So this is the village elder and descendant of the wise men that the kid in the town was telling me about. Surprised a young man like you is looking for the Sword of Evil's Bane. Not just anyone can use that sword. Let's see here. 1-3 pendants. I see you have already acquired the Pendant of Courage. I will tell you the legend behind it. 3 or 4 generations ago. 3 or 4 generations ago? That wasn't that... That's... My great-grandparents... I have great-grandparents that are from that time. Like, that's... Things can't fade into legend if there's still people around who go, yeah, I remember that. 3 or 4 generations ago, an order of knights protected the royalty of the Hylia. These knights of Hyrule were also guardians of the Pendant of Courage. Unfortunately, most of them were destroyed in the great war against evil that took place when the 7 wise men created their seal. Among the descendants of the knights of Hyrule, a hero must appear. Barf, I believe you should get the remaining pendants. Carry this with you as a treasure passed down by the families of the wise men. I want you to have it. I couldn't get to my mute button in time, so I just swallowed the sneeze, and it was very uncomfortable. He gives you the Pegasus shoes. You can execute a devastating dash attack. Awesome. Helpful item is hidden in the cave on the east side of Lake Hylia. Get it. I already have it. It's the ice rod. So yeah, like the way they framed the legend, it was that it happened a long time ago, and that, you know, the Golden Land and the Triforce have faded into obscurity because so much time has gone by. It was only 3 or 4 generations ago, according to this guy. Like, there's still probably... There has to still be people alive from back then, you know? Maybe it was 3 or 4 generations before him, and he's already probably 3 generations removed from Link. So maybe you're starting to get into long enough in the past that the details have started to erode as time has gone by. But really, like, it's recent history that this happened. Zelda needs to get its facts straight. Is there anything else I should do? No, I don't think so. I'll just go straight to the next spot. I could go up and get the flippers if I wanted to, but that's alright. I gotta go up that way anyways before I go up the Death Mountain, so I'll get them then. The Pegasus boots, I think, might be a kind of a throwback to the water walking boots in Zelda 2. You got these boots that let you walk out into the sea to find the 4th dungeon or the 5th dungeon, something like that. I'm actually a little surprised that the Pegasus boots haven't... Well, wait, I might be saying this, but I'm wrong. I don't remember the Pegasus boots being in any other games besides this one and Link Between Worlds. No, actually they have been. They were in, I'm almost certain they were in Link's Awakening. Yeah, okay. I'm a total liar. They've been in other games. I'm full of shit. They're not in enough games, though. I want the Pegasus boots to... This is great. Pay no attention to the average middle-aged man standing by this sign. Leave him alone. Then he's got nothing to say. But then I'm like... Fucking ruin your sign, old man. Why'd you take my sign, man? It says plain as day to just leave me alone. Sheesh. Guy just follows me around. Come on, man. Leave me alone. Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Do I take him with me into the desert? No, I don't. Isn't that funny shit, though, man? That's funny. What does this guy have to say? The Book of Medora. That's the book I just got at the library. With it, you can read the language of the Hylia people. Yeah, I know that. Which, again, if I'm going off the timeline from the guy that was up at the Eastern Palace, was only a few generations ago that the Hylia were around. So why is their language faded into obscurity? How quickly does history move in this universe? These questions and many more answered... probably never. Got him. Alright. Hylian people wrote in a weird way. Item? Make to open the way to go forward, make your wish here and it will be granted. This is going to be one of the few left-in references to the original translation or the original interpretation of this game, which was that there was more religious imagery in Zelda once upon a time. He's gonna kneel down. They call that genuflecting. Or genuflection? To genuflect is to kneel down in prayer. In Christianity specifically, possibly religions in general, but I know the Christians call it genuflecting. And he made the sign of the cross there too. Once upon a time, Zelda had more religious imagery in it, and then the Western translations and ports and whatever of the game, a lot of that was removed. In Zelda 1, I mean, obviously he's got the cross on his shield that he wears, but also the spell book, I think the spell book was called the Bible. There were a couple of other small translation changes. In this game, the sanctuary in Japan was actually called the church. Aghanim is not a wizard, he is a priest. So these are minor, you know, religiously loaded words that I don't think would have caused any problems, but they wanted their Western release to not have any, you know, references to real-world religion kind of at all. It's probably for the better. Like, they didn't want to open themselves up to controversy. And Nintendo was very aware of their marketing. Like, I don't know that they are anymore. I think that Nintendo's marketing has actually gotten a little bad. Like, actively bad recently. But once upon a time, they were really, really clever about marketing. They're the reason, and the only reason, really, that there are video games today. Because during the 80s, there was a series of, like, economic and marketing situations that are called the video game crash of the 80s. All confidence in video games went out the window because, like, anybody could make anything. Like, any company could just make a game and release it for the Atari, as an example. And there were these cash grab kind of games that had great art on the box cover, but then you loaded them up and they were, like, terrible games, right? You know, and because video games were seen as being this really, really expensive thing that, at the end of the day, the quality is just crappy, all consumer faith in video games kind of evaporated in the West. Like, there was a time where there were almost no more video games created in America or for American audiences. Nintendo recognized all of this happening. They're in Japan. They've got the Nintendo Entertainment System. They're called the Famicom. Is it this one? It's that one. The next one is the upper right. Remember that. Upper right pot. It's been a while since I've read up on this, so my details may be wrong. But Nintendo had the Famicom in Japan. It was enjoying success, and they were very confident that they could bring their product to America and to Europe. And there were a lot of investors and, like, board members and that sort of folks who just didn't buy it. Like, they just, I don't know, video games are really weak there. So they didn't market the Nintendo Entertainment System as a video game. Upper right, see, I told you. I know this map. They didn't market the Nintendo Entertainment System as a video game. They marketed it as a toy, and they targeted a younger audience deliberately. What that did was, you know, rather than being sold as electronics, they were sold in toy shops. They were packaged alongside things like Rob, who was like the robotic something buddy, I think. I forget what Rob stands for. But, like, it made it feel, you know, like a toy. What am I doing the arrows for? The ice rod, man. The ice rod. Fuck. Come on! Oh, I'm terrible at this. 2, maybe 3 shots with the ice rod is enough to kill these. So much for that, I guess. Anyway, their marketing strategy paid off, and the Nintendo Entertainment System, as I'm sure you know, was wildly successful in the Americas. And it was due in great deal, not just to the quality of the games that were released for it, like Nintendo had that whole seal of quality thing, like Nintendo seal of approval. And if that was on your video game, you knew that Nintendo had looked at it and approved it. So the overall, like, average quality of the video games went up because they had, like, people watching for it, but also, because they were able to market it successfully, it was able to get off the ground even in the first place. I'm trying to think of where I was going with this when I originally started telling this story, but, oh, it was in reference to changing the language in the game to be more religiously neutral. That was probably a marketing decision made by the same people who realized the best way to sell this to the Americans is to change the way we describe it. And, I mean, they were right. Like, well, I don't know if they were right in this instance, but we don't live in a reality where... You know what I mean? Like, it's impossible to say whether or not it improved sales or if it improved reception for the game, because we don't have a contrast for that. We don't have a Zelda game that came out in the same year that had religious imagery in it that was left in. But Link genuflecting and doing the sign of the cross at the beginning of this was, I think, a holdover from when there was more religious symbolism in the game. Let's see. It's probably been close to 20 minutes. I neglected to click start on the timer until a few minutes into the game. So, I'm gonna head up to... Well, we can explore Zora's Domain, and we can explore, Death Mountain in the next video. Bye-bye! Get it? On Markiplier.